What's Giggle?
Giggle is a social networking app exclusively for women. So my mum and I came up with the idea in 2018, 2019. And it stemmed from I'd been in Hollywood as a screenwriter in the pre-Me Too era, and it's as bad as they say it is. It was a cesspool. I started with sexual harassment, escalated to quite a few instances of like full-blown sexual assault, attempted rape. And I just wanted to sell scripts. It was really bad. And on that, I didn't realize that I was actually being treated differently because I was a woman, but I was. There's not that many women screenwriters. When Me Too started happening, we all sort of started talking to each other and going, oh, it was happening to you too. So it's sort of isolation by design. And so, we were all internalizing it, thinking it's our own fault and, oh, am I not talented enough or whatever? No. It's just pure sexism. So I went back to Australia. I went to New York for a bit, then I went back to Australia, and I went into therapy to sort of try and recover from everything that had happened because I was a shell of a person. And in therapy, my therapist just sort of said this one sentence. It was this light bulb moment. She was like, you needed a really strong female support network in your life. And I was like, you're right. I did. I went through all these different ways where that would have helped. And so my mum and I were talking about it, like what I was recovering from in therapy, because as a mother, she felt like horrible of what I'd gone through. And one night, I was having a whiskey, she was having a wine, and she went, why don't we create an app for women, basically so they can have the female support network in the palm of their hand. But originally it was going to be just a roommate app, because once I'd left Hollywood, I went to New York because I was like, I don't have to completely give up the dream, but I need to get out of Hollywood. There's still industry there. I can go and work there. And I had to go on to roommates.com and find a roommate, find a room to rent, which is a horribly depressing process, especially when you're 32 at this point. And there's just messages from guys being like, you can walk around here naked if you can live here rent free if you walk around naked, or do you want a boyfriend as well, or lots of foot fetish stuff. Obviously,